Well, today I'm going to do a brush pen drawing. Which I enjoy doing because with brush pen you can do these nice big bold marks, and then the more feathery, considered marks like that, which, so you get the sort of best of both worlds, I think. The expressive gestural lines that you can use, and then you can sort of start to go into it with detail using the same pen. So it's that flexibility I enjoy, and it's why I think many cartoonists enjoy drawing with brushes. I've just done a cover for the Literary Review, and in it I've done a sort of pastiche of a sort of classical Chinese landscape, again using these sort of brush marks and lots of smoky watercolour. And I thoroughly enjoyed it and thought, well, actually I should use that technique more often. So this is a little warm-up. Some sort of rocky landscape. And as I draw it, I suddenly think, is this some sort of portal? And yes, the answer is yes, it is. This is some sort of doorway, maybe rocky doorway, arch, maybe. It's certainly the way into somewhere mystical. And as I do drawings like this, I often, I start off with no real idea of what it's going to be, whether it's going to be a figure or a landscape or something else. But as I start to fill the plane of the picture, little ideas, contexts, storylines begin to form. And sometimes they only last the duration of the drawing, and then I forget all about them. And other times they turn into stories that I can actually use and develop and take somewhere else. So in the Cloud Horse Chronicles, of which I've just written the second and final Cloud Horse, there will be 2 novels in the Cloud Horse Chronicles. So quite a short chronicle in a sense, but there are 2 of them, and I'm working on the second. But they began as a map that I drew just because I wanted to draw a map. I had no idea what world would be set within the confines of the map. In fact, it was just a map that I wanted to draw for its own sake, and I just invented names and drew things in without any real sense of what this obviously mystical and fairy tale land might contain, what stories it might contain. And in fact, when I'd finished drawing it, I enjoyed drawing it, but once it was finished, I just put it away in a drawer. Just left it because I had other things to do, and there was no need to embark on a new adventure of any sort. I had lots of other things I was doing. I think I was working on Goth Girl, I'd finishing another Ottoline book, there were some picture books in the offing, lots of different things to do. So this map just sat in my drawer for a very long time. I think at least 5 years or more. And then one day, I was just thinking, right, I want to sort of write and draw a new story of some sort. And I opened the drawer and saw this map, and I thought, well, that's it. I shall use this map to kickstart my next middle grade story, and that's how the Guardians of Magic came into being. I submitted it to an American publisher who was very interested in it, or rather my UK publisher submitted it to an American publisher who was terribly interested in it. And of course, America being a very large and lucrative market, you know, it's obviously one would like books to go to America. And the American publisher saw the finished manuscript that had been edited by my English editor and was, you know, ready to be illustrated. In fact, I think I'd started illustrating it, and so they got to see almost the final thing, and they came back with all these editorial suggestions, and my UK publisher said, well, the Americans have got all these editorial suggestions. They're not saying they will publish it, but they're just saying, you know, in order to consider it, here are all the suggestions that they feel they would need for an American edition. And I bristled at this. I thought, how dare they? And I started to read through these impertinent, presumptuous editorial comments from some American editor I had never met. And I read the first editorial note, and I thought, oh, that's actually quite a good point. And then I read the second one, and I thought, now, yes, I think that would be an improvement. And then I read a third and thought, okay, now I can see where you're going with this. I went through all of them, and they were all really interesting, thoughtful, engaged comments, and I couldn't disagree with any of them. I thought, actually, this is rather great. So I made all sorts of changes to sort of slightly realigned chapters and characters, and changed all sorts of things, and then the Americans decided they weren't going to publish it. So all I can say is thank you very much for that. It was very useful, even though the American public never got to see the book. They decided it just wasn't good enough for them. But I loved doing it, and it sold reasonably well in the UK, not so well elsewhere, and no one really has taken much note of it beyond the wonderful readers in the UK. And I really don't care, because I sort of love it anyway. And that's often the case. I think we writers often, and illustrators often, love their less successful books every bit as much as the ones that people like. And I'm no exception. And so I've got a huge soft spot for the Guardians of Magic. And I've really enjoyed doing the sequel. But given that the Americans aren't interested, and my publisher said to me, well, do you really want to do 3 stories? I said, no, not necessarily. They said, okay, just stop at 2 then. So I'm stopping at the second Cloud Horse Chronicle, which is called Tiggy Thistle and the Lost Guardians, and is set about 20 years after the first book. And it really does. The second book explains exactly what the world is all about and why it looks the way it is. And it's an origin story, in a sense. Even though it is set after the book, it is all about discovering all the characters from the first book, what became of them, and resolving the storyline, I think, in a satisfying way for those who are interested. You know who you are. And it's a book I will dedicate to you. And in the meantime, what I'd like to do is I would like to read the Guardians of Magic in its entirety on YouTube. And you won't see me reading it, it'll just be my voice reading it, and then my son is going to edit the audio with while he films all the illustrations in the book, and pans across them. So what you'll hear is the book being read, and you'll see the pictures edited together, fading one into the other, and he's done that for me before really successfully with a book called Hugo Pepper that I wrote with Paul Stewart, my great friend, and he did a really nice job on that as well. So that's out on YouTube. You can find it somewhere in the great populous city that is YouTube. You can see Hugo Pepper and listen to it being read. You see all the illustrations. And again, that's a book that was not necessarily hugely successful, but absolutely one of my favourite books to have worked on. I'm very proud of it. And without Hugo Pepper, I don't think I would have gone on to write and illustrate Ottoline or Goth Girl. So Hugo Pepper is the origin book for those far more successful books, which is why I've got a huge affection for it. So here is a portal ready to suggest what lies beyond. And again, this is another one of my favourite combinations, brush pen and pencil crayon. I do many pictures like this. And it's because it's quite nice and quick. I did quite like. This is going to be a warm-up for an afternoon working on The Little Prince. That's what's on my drawing board currently. And I will give you a sneak preview of some of that artwork. Over the weekend I'm going to do a lot of content that can roll out over next month. So there's lots and lots of content to come. Sketchbook page turning, a workshop or two, some readings, some more poetry, a couple of previews of books just about to come out, including the paperback of The Tales of Beedle the Bard, the book I illustrated for J.K. Rowling, and maybe a couple of readings from work in progress. And also, Harry and I will do another one of our music and drawing events, which will also have the sale afterwards of the drawings that I produce on a big cartel site. And this time we'll try not to sell the same drawing over and over again. That was a bit of a flurry, but we managed, I think, to put that right. But this time, what will be there will be available just once. And we will be doing that on Sunday on live stream. And we'll also try and do a live Q&A with a demonstration of, I think, watercolour. Because everything I've done so far on Patreon has been drawing based, which obviously is something I love, but this, I think, is an opportunity to maybe show how I would set about producing a watercolour. And before I started today's drawing post, I got my brush pen out and I set up the camera and I did a complete drawing of a dragon chatting about things much the same as what I'm doing right now. and I looked up and I'd forgotten to turn the camera on. So I did a whole other drawing, talking to myself and not filming it. So I just thought I'd put the dragon in that I drew the first time, which I'll show you in a minute. Here, I'm just putting him in his context. The portal to a dragon infested. I'm not sure infested is the right name for dragon. Maybe that's a little too sort of leading a description. But anyway, a realm of dragons, which sounds like a particularly generic fantasy title. A realm of dragons, a commonwealth of ogres, a confederacy of elves. It's my trilogy right there. My goodness. Here we are. A blue pencil crayon dragon flying across the sky. And this was the dragon I drew first. There we have the two drawings for a Thursday morning.